How are we doing today? All my family, Ela family out there. We give honor to life for a beautiful week ahead. We have clarity that the week will be beautiful for us because we speak forth beautiful things, beautiful words to the universe. I love you to all. Ifa Ela Ministry aim is to close the gap between man and woman. If you're someone that dislike the fact that there are a gap between men and women in the world, then definitely Ifa Ela Ministry is for you. Last week we discussed about rituals. We need not be afraid of the word ritual any longer because ritual is a way of life. Clarity of awakening, meaning Ifa Ela allows us the truth that is undeniable. The key is to put God in the center of your ritual. Do not perform your rituals at anyone's expense. Spring forth love and clarity into the air, into the water, etc. with your rituals. Then definitely all will be well with you. This week, what we're going to be talking about is God and time. In the Quran, we were told that the God name is 99. I hope that I'm correct. When I connected with God, that is in me, that I am, I've always wondered, God's name is 99. Because there was a time I studied my Quran very well, as much as I could, and I was praying Muslim way. Because I love God, anything that has to do with God, I love. So yeah, I know quite my Quran, my Bible, reasonably, I would say. And anyways, we were told that in the Quran that God's name is 99. And I've always wondered that God's name is without number. God's name is without number, but obviously that's what I know in my heart. I didn't actually have any explanation to that. And then the other day, we found that someone had put together about almost 200 God's name. This was on YouTube. And of course in Yoruba way, it was beautiful. And one of them, which obviously I'm very accustomed to from childhood, is when they call one of God's name, you will hear in prayer, ibadah, they will say Alabadano, Alawoteleho. Now I said, that means sun, S-U-N. But the clarity in my heart is telling me that it's Alabadano, Alawoteleho, meaning all things have their own voice, and every voice, no matter how quiet it is or how loud it is, when you listen carefully, you will definitely hear the voice of God in it. And the voice of God only stands for one thing. It's love, clarity, and purpose. And that's the only way that we can connect with God. With our voice, in our own time, in silence, we'll find the silence could be even more louder and clearer. Because in your heart, you're speaking to God. Anyways, what is God? Because I said we'll be talking about God and time today. Clearly, God's name is without number, which means we cannot possibly begin to describe or put a name or put one name to God, because God is everything. God is that which we cannot totally define or explain. But when we have clarity that God that is in us is who we are, for me, Morimi, Ifa Ela, meaning strong arms of loving God, strong arms of everlasting God, that explains to me that God is tangible. Just the same way as time is tangible, even though time seemingly goes in circle. But what my heart is instructing me to tell every one of us is, no matter how circle we go, we must know that the way forward is to be straight. We must, if you're going on a journey or you're going somewhere, no matter where you turn, you still find that your way is straight. So God, we cannot completely describe. And that's the God that is intangible that we cannot completely describe. But that gives us the clarity that the God in us that we are is tangible. And that's all we need to know about God. When we ascend, whatever else that God needs for us to know, we will know. But for this higher plane, this earth, we must have clarity in our heart that God is tangible, because if we don't, one will just end up not having a clarity of purpose. And when a person do not have a clarity of purpose, that is equivalent to death. You have to have a clarity of purpose, and the only way you can do that is when you connect to God through your heart, and that's your tangible God. So we cannot define God. We cannot say this is God. We need to know that God is everything. And every one of us have our own path, our own space that God has made straight, and it's in that is given to each one of us our path that connect as one. And that's how God is one. Meaning whatever my purpose is, my aim must be to connect with God, must be to honor everything around me, to keep my path, my straight path clean, so that everything around me that connects with me will be clean, will be renewed. When they say, in Yoruba, God is alagbada no, alawo tele o. They will say alawo tele o, meaning the sun. But for me, it's more clear for me to say alagbada no, alawo tele o, meaning the sun. Literally, that's what they're saying. The sun, the one who wears the sun, one who is light of life that is beyond man's knowledge or explanation or clarity. But the clarity of God in our heart is what keeps us straight path, is what keeps us loving God, is what keeps every one of us that love God as one. And that's what gives us clarity of our purpose. Time. What is it? What is time? Time is definitely tangible, because time is with numbers, and numbers are tangible, same as symbols. That's how tangible God is in our heart is. Time moves with us, and we move with time. And the closest thing to God is time. Time never fails. But when a person do not particularly know the meaning of time or the purpose of time, it becomes something that we cannot connect with. Some people have been able to draw time to their own side through the readings of numbers and symbols. The key thing about time is that we must completely respect the rhythm of times, every second of it, every minute of it, every hour of it, so that we will not miss our time, we will not miss our purpose, because as we know it to be, time never fails. This gives us clarity that God never fails, and God's time upon our lives will never fail. So for some people, when they think God, I think that they think time. That's where they're able to make sense of their life. And that is sensible and very reasonable, to be able to connect time with God. The key thing about time is that patience is very paramount. And we know also that patience is one of the greatest attributes of God. So a person that loves God and talks about God must also have clarity of art of patience. When you know the importance of numbers to God, and now time is next to God, you'll be able to appreciate the art of patience as well, because some people think being patient can encourage a lot of not getting things done. I'm not talking about that kind of patience. I'm talking about a patience that you have in your everyday activity. Patience that you have while you're still being productive. Patience that you have while you're still keeping things moving in your life. Of course, sometimes that's easier said than done, because it's nice that we're able to have all this kind of talk of encouragement, talk of a move forward, talk of empowerment, if you like, talk of inspirations. But the clarity also is that why some of us are so keen to connect with life and everything in it from love angle, i.e. God. Some people are not particularly think that way or feel that's the way a person should live their life, or for them that's not productive. But when you know your God and you know the presence of God in your life, that should not be your focus. Because some people like to say your truth is different from somebody else's truth. That makes sense to some point, and it is reasonable, each to their own. But just because you're somebody who loves God and you want to do things God's way, does not mean you will not be a successful person. It means you have to be clear as to who you are and why you're here, and have it in clarity in your heart what you will not do and what you will do, and know the real meaning of God. The real meaning of God is not impossible for a person to abide with. And don't have concern that, oh, how come somebody's been successful now and you're not? Provided that you keep your life moving, because you know the saying that, which is true, that faith without work is like death. That which they call faith in Christianity is Ifa Ela, meaning Ifa, faith is Ifa, and the light of God, Ifa Ela, the light of God that is in you. When you have the light of God that is in you, which is God, that's one of the name of God, light, you're not going to be concerned that, oh, someone is successful now and you're not. Because you will know in your heart with clarity that your time will come and your time will never fail, and your time will be on time. Because God never fails, the same way as time never fails. So stay joyful in the position that you are now, provided that you make sure you put your faith to work. Meaning, make sure that you stay productive, doing what you love. But the key thing is, put God first. And you're a godly person and you don't have any other means of success. You know in your heart that there's no other way for you to become a successful person, but your way. For example, your way is God's way. That's how I think personally, that my way, God's way is my way, and my way is God's way. So I go by the light of God that is in me. I'm not concerned about somebody else's success, or someone is successful now and you have to. I feel successful. That's what I'm trying to say. Where you are now, if you don't have clarity in your heart that you are successful, then you're not making any sense. Because success is you're in good health. God gave you good health. You don't lack. You have harmony, Ela, in your life. That's success. Now, when you wake up in the morning and you're able to put your feet on the ground and you move, you have to keep it moving. And you have to know in your heart that you're successful. You keep it moving, every bit of your success will begin to connect with you on time. Because time never fails. That is giving us clarity that God never fails. Don't be in a rush to be rich, because some people think unless you have all the money in the world, you're not rich. What about wealth of health that you have? That is giving you an assurance that you have wealth of everything that you need in your life to be an overflowing person, to be able to glorify God, to be able to lift God up. And when we're talking of God, because when you think God, you have to think ancestors. That is the tangible God. That is the closest that we are to God, as we are the ancestors, generations that are here, that are coming. That is time that are already here. That's who we are. Because what is already is, what is going to be already is. God already done everything concerning your life, concerning my life. Is already written. Now the time, we may even know, the hour, we may even know, even the seconds. We may not know. But we know that God is always on time. Where is the assurance of that? That God is always on time. The assurance of that is that time never fails. Even if you don't know the hour that it will take place, the next step, you don't know the hour that it will happen. But you have to know in your heart, in your clarity, in your light, that time never fails. So God's time concerning your life will not fail. Some may even have the craft of working time with numbers and symbols, but nobody even knows how it's going to happen. If anybody says they know how it's going to happen, tell them it's a lie. Or even if some people can play tricks or do magic to make it happen, you better know that that is not real. And that is a magic without some miracle. And magic that has no miracle in it, there's no life in it. It's like a light bulb that can be turned off by anyone. Because the person, the magician that will tell you this will happen at a certain time, go there, you will see that it will happen. That is a magic. That is man-made. That will not have longevity of purpose or of productivity. Therefore, it is very important that we appreciate time and we connect time directly to God, and we know that God is time. For time never fails. That means your time, that God is waiting for you to connect with your purpose. Your overflow in success, step by step, will take place on time, provided that you keep your faith moving, meaning you're being productive. You're doing what is written in your heart. Me, one of what I'm using my time to do now is Ifa Ela Ministry. And I discovered that this year, it was a long time coming. A lot of unsettling feelings that I don't know what I was or why that is going on in my life. But when on time, I didn't know, I didn't think about it. I just know that I love God and that's all I talk about. But on time, it happened. So most of things that I talk about, I am a living evidence of it, a living proof of God. Now, how do we appreciate time as a community? We already noted that time is God and God is time. Now, as a community of people, how do we completely respect time? There's this saying that we hear every now and then, African time. This is time that we should renew that saying and disconnect from such saying, because that does not speak true of us. How do we respect time as a community? In spite of the old saying, African time. This is God time now. We have to renew that aspect of our lives as well. So how we need to start to respect time individually and collectively as a community. That's the only way that time will begin to respect us as people. When you make an appointment with somebody, make sure you keep the time. Make it part of your business to be early, to be on time. Because one of the things that affects people is when you don't respect time, it means you don't. Because time is God. Some people would like to say time is money. No, for me, I would say time is God, because according to God, everything God has created is meant to protect us, to be in harmony with us. So if money could talk, money will say to us, I need my harmony. Ela. Everything needs harmony. That's the meaning of God time. So we have to harmonize our characters with time. We have to begin to respect time as people, because if you're not a respecter of time, how can you convincingly say that you have respect for God? And not having respect for God simply means you do not have respect for yourself. So as community, today is time for us to remove that saying African time, meaning people that are not on time. From today, we're going to start to be on time. When we make time with somebody, when we make time promise with someone, we will be there on time. Because all things that we find impossible with the strong hands of God, Morimi Faila, all become possible. Because God is always on time. Evidence of that is time. Time is always on time. For we're people that represent God. Our activity, our character must begin to align with that, with God, with time. and laugh yet also. Time never fails. God times in our lives will never fail. But it goes both ways. For that to be established in our lives, we've got to be ready to be on time with everything that we do, personally and collectively. Time never fails, which means God never fails. However, how come people are not able to come into their time? There are several reasons. However, we will take this opportunity to mention a few. Distractions, not being in alignment with time, lack of clarity about what we're meant to be doing or where we need to be or how we need to do what it is that is in our heart. Lack of clarity and lack of patience. With its 4 reasons whereby distract people from coming into their time, when we're able to renew all of that, it won't be difficult for us to learn how to respect our time now. And with certainty of time, everything God has written concerning our lives will be established. The golden rules about sticking to time is that you will definitely discover who you are, your hidden talent, provided that you keep your faith walking, provided you keep your Ifa Ela walking, provided you make sure that you connect, not just 1 time or 2 times. Make it a way of life, every day of your life. Be present in your time. Your time will be present with you, and time will never fail you. As God in our heart, all around us, a straight path never fails. On that note, it is time to celebrate ancestors. When you think God, think ancestors. Think generations that we are, of ancestors. Think generations of ancestors that we are, that we're always going to be. So therefore, we're taking this opportunity, this minute, this moment, to honor ancestors, to celebrate all our ancestors from the beginning of time, now and forever. And we're celebrating all generations that we are, that we're always going to be, now and forever. Ibadah, meaning praise or prayer for the week. We give honor to another new week. We're clear that strong arms of God, Morimi Ifa Ela, is leading our path, is leading our way. Therefore, all will be well with us. Remember that the love you have for yourself is the greatest love of all. Remember that the love you have for yourself is the greatest love of all. Instruction of the week. Patience with constant productivity is the key to staying connected. And patience will keep you in balance with your purpose at all times. Having ability to engage your craft with time and will constantly help you to discover your next step as you move along in your purpose, meaning doing precisely what God has written in your heart. You have to make that your way of life. That has to come first before you can even begin to include anything else into that. And you cannot possibly include anything else into God except God's way, because when you discover your first step, your next step follows. And as you wake up every day in good health, that's the universe telling you that you have to keep it moving. Time is with you, and time will never fail you. As God that is in us that we are never fails. Provided you stay in line with your time, no matter how difficult the situation is or looks like on the inside or on the outside, light of Ela will shine always inside of you. Light of Ela, meaning light of life, energy of life that is bigger than any man on the planet Earth, will always shine within you and enable you to keep it moving no matter what. Remember, we have entered into a new day. The key to being connected to God that you are, inside of you, all around you, straight part always, is to make a renewal a daily ritual. Every second, every minute, every hour. Knowing that renewal is your way of life. Because water renews every second of the day. It's beyond our clarity. That's the only reason water is able to keep us clean. And we must reflect on being a person that is connected to God. You have to know that renewal is important because there is no purity without renewal. So a renewal is a way of life. Being able to review ourselves all the time and being able to remind ourselves who we are all the time, that helps us to stay reformed in the way and the manner that God has written concerning our lives. And when you're someone that loves God and you stay connected to God, you don't have to compromise your love for God, meaning you don't have to compromise your time value. And you have to show that in your everyday life. Keep to time, respect time. Time will keep with you, time will respect you. God loves you always. We have clarity in our heart that the strong arms of God, Ifa Ela, will keep us beyond next week. Have a good one. Alafia. And I keep all my alafia to myself.